Okay, okay.
Oh.
So I am putting it live, and I think Bijan, you can start.
Okay. Good morning to all. I welcome all you to the second day of first international conference of Tibeto-Burman Linguistics Association of Northeast India. That is the ICTiBLANEI-1 2021, organized by TiBLANEI in collaboration with Tezpur University Center for Endangered Language. So in today's first session in Phonology-II, we have 4 papers. So to chair the session, I invite Dr. T. Temsunung Sang. Dr. T. Temsunung Sang is an assistant professor in IFLU Shillong campus. So without wasting any further time, I invite Dr. Temsunung Sang to start the session. Over to you.
Thank you, Bijan. Welcome all participants to the second day of first session. Yesterday, I think we had a very enriching day, and hopefully today as well, we will have a good time of learning. This session, we have 4 papers, Chaksang Siro, Sahina, Vaiko, Bipasha Bhatkiri, and Aditya Prakash Das. So I think all 4 are here today. As done yesterday, we will have 20 minutes of presentation and 10 minutes of discussion. And at the end of 15 minutes, we will give you a warning bell, or I will just shout out. Please wrap up by 20 minutes so that we can also have enough time for discussion. So I think the first paper, Chaksang Siro from Manipur University, he'll be presenting on the phonology of Thalui. So yeah, now I give the time to him. Yeah, you can unmute yourself, Chaksang. I think you're on mute.
Yeah. Today is the first time for me, so it's a little bit difficult over here. You cannot see my first speech.
You can use the arrow keys to go back. Arrow keys.
Okay,
yeah,
arrow.
Go back. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much. Okay. Hi. Good morning, everyone. I am Chaksang Siro from Manipur University. Okay, and here is my topic: phonology of Thalui. Thalui is one of the 221 villages in Ukhrul district of Manipur. And Thalui village is also one of the closest village from Ukhrul headquarters, Ukhrul town. And the phonology of Thalui that I had research on is the first linguistic research that has been taken place on this Thalui variety of Tangkhul, standard Tangkhul language. Some of you might have learned from other literature that Ukhrul district comprises of so many Tangkhul language varieties, and there are also some language varieties that are not intelligible at all with the standard Tangkhul. So the phonology of Thalui. Okay, this is the site. Here you can see here, Thalui is very close with Ukhrul headquarters, and Ukhrul headquarters, the Ukhrul town, is made up of 2 villages. One is Punpun, HUNT, which I have written down here, and the other is called Pungpung. I have not mentioned here. So it is very near. And I am showing here just 6 or 7 villages over here, but there are around 221 villages, as I have said before, as per 2011 census. Okay. So next. So the previous research on Tangkhul language, Naga language varieties or standard Tangkhul. Okay. So the standard Tangkhul language came out of this Punpun language variety, okay, which is a lingua franca now of all the Tangkhul people. And Phunphun variety of Tangkhul language is spoken in Ukhrul tongue. And the first missionary or the first educationist in Ukhrul district, okay, was a Western evangelist whose name is called William Pettigrew. Okay, he came to Ukhrul town and he started to teach this grammar and everything and mathematics to the Tangkhul people. And that's why this Phunphun variety has become a lingua franca or the standard Tangkhul language. So the main studies, the first one was William Pettigrew, and next DNS Shankarpat. He was from Deccan College, Pune. And then Arunik Janathan, Ahom Victor. So Ahom Victor was the first Tangkhul who did a comprehensive study on Tangkhul language variety. And then David Mortensen, he was the first known.
Yeah, I think he got disconnected, is it?
Yeah, it seems he got disconnected.
Bijen, if you have the PPT, you can just keep it in that screen where he lost connection.
Okay, let me try with the yes, it is there. I think you were somewhere here.
Anybody calling him?
Can you call him Bijen that to connect again? Maybe he may not be aware that he got disconnected. Oh yeah, he's connecting.
Hello. Hello, my voice is
Yeah, yeah, we can hear you. Yeah,
Yeah.
You got disconnected.
Yeah, there was a problem with my laptop. I'm so sorry about it.
Yeah, if you're having any problem, I can share your PPT from my end also.
It's not. I'm having some problem with my power. I mean the power of my laptop. Now I think that the problem will not be there.
Okay. Okay, then please carry on. Okay.
Okay. Can I go on like this week?
Yeah, please go ahead. I think you can go to your analysis because I think you have lost a few minutes there. So yeah.
Okay, so as far as the Tamil language variety is concerned, no research has ever been taken place. And the present researcher is the first linguistic researcher to do linguistic research on this language variety. Okay, let's go to the next slide. Okay, the main aim of this research is to provide a description of the phonological features of the variety of Tangkul Naga language. Okay, and the reason why I really wanted to conduct a linguistic research on this language was for some quite few reasons. The major reasons were, say, only 2 native and 2 non-native Indian linguists have. Okay, there were some.
Hello, Chaksang.
Uh,
I think again.
I think, can you hear him? Or am I the only one?
No, I can hear you, Tim's.
No, we can't hear the speaker. We
Yes,
can hear
that's
each
what
other.
I think he lost again.
So, yeah, in case this continues again, we have to either give him in the later slot. It seems he has a power problem with his computer.
Or Bijan, you can show the PPT, the next slides for a glance in that case.
I don't know. Should we continue with the second speaker?
I think we can continue with the second speaker.
Yeah,
So-
sometime
losing.
after the end of this session, if we have some time, we can give, or before the break. So I don't think he will be able to make it.
Yeah, so then I think the next paper is by Sunny is here. So, well, why don't we go to the next paper?
Yeah.
Because
Okay.
yeah,
So-
Monali, I think you can share.
Yeah, I will
Okay.
share.
So the time for Sana will be the same, but we have to count from this point of time, na? Then.
Okay. I think I'll keep my video off because my network is not stable.
Okay, fine.
Yeah, am I audible?
Yes, you are loud and clear.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for the time. So today is my
Yeah, hello,
talk.
Chaksang.
Okay. Okay.
Is the back
Am I audible?
button? Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So today I'll be talking on tone documentation, and this is a topic related to what I experienced during my PhD dissertation when I write my dissertation, and also my experience working on tone languages in Pola, and also some other Angami Puchuri languages. So the topic I said is tone documentation using a tone periodic table. Okay, so in next slide we will see that there are types of tones. So the gist of the talk is I'll discuss about types of the tone languages and previous methods of tone analysis, and I will try my best to say what is a tone periodic table, and also the inventory of one table, that is tone table, which is tone periodic table with examples, and also the advantages of developing a tone periodic table, and I will summarize the talk. Okay, so we know that there are probably the first types of tone is recognized by Pike in 1948, which he labeled as register tone and contour tone. And in works done in like African languages, they have also used the word like restricted tone, which is generally associated with non-phonemic tone or like word tone or pitch accent. We see this in Burhuri's 1973, and so many works are done in African tone systems. And if we see even Snyder and Heyman 2007, and we also have another term like omnisyllabic tone types, Matisov in 1989. So when we try to classify or types of tone base, the classifying tone languages into types is always not easy. As we see works done by Junmu in 2004, and also Evans in 2019, where he tried to classify the languages of the Trans-Himalayan, where he identified that it is hard to classify or come up with a specific types of tone, because many tonal contrasts are there in some languages to like no tonal contrast at all. And also there are emerging of tonal contrast and disappearing of tones. So in next, what I will say is, among those, we can roughly differentiate between restricted versus non-restricted tone in the next slide. So what I will say is, at least we can understand that restricted tone, when I say mean non-phonemic tone, or like word tone or pitch accent. And non-restricted tone, what we can understand is like phonemic tone, which we can have pure minimal pairs. And in particular with Pumai, we see that there is no distinction between so-called, we call it surface tone or underlying tone, like it realizes almost the same. And Matisov, what really interests me also, what is interesting is, and I really agree or like the view that Matisov say that tone had come and go many times in the Trans-Himalayan languages. And for example, I think even in Pomai language, which is very near to Mau Naga, when we see, I think because of the disyllabic like prefix like ka with verbs or o with nouns, like that makes a lot of difference in the tone patterns when I analyze and see. Whereas in Pula, there is no such as like ka prefix with verb or o prefix with nouns, though they are very closely related and associated. Okay, so in next slide, we see methods of tone analysis. When I say mean that people, when we see minimal pairs, like the very famous example is Mandarin Chinese or the Cantonese tone when they show the example. So here, what always trigger me is when we say minimal pairs, when we say there are 5 tones in the languages or like 4 tones, what always trigger me is like, how many pairs can we get in that language? There are many scholars whom I discuss and made this, it's not necessary to say this much minimal pairs or this much tone are there, but for me, I feel like it's very interesting part to look into it. And also tone versus intonation, because in those languages where you cannot find minimal pairs in tone, so we call lexical tone. And even in lexical tone, of course, due to the pitch variation, we can distinguish between the word, like the semantics different. But I feel like even when we say lexical tone, and when we look into minimal pairs, I don't know how we can clearly define what is a tone actually. So tone versus phoneme, for example, same with people just look into tone, look into the pitch, like more phonetically, without really looking into tonology or the phonological aspect. And for example, when we go to pure minimal pairs, there are works where they look the minimal pairs with the same word class, like verbs. The minimal pair should be of same word class, like noun, noun, or verb, verb, or it should be of same form or like same structure. But like in Snyder, he gave so many examples where even those it's not required to have minimal pairs as long as the word class are same. So there are many different way of representing the tone of a language. So for a students or like young scholar like us, it's very confusing sometimes to study a new language actually. So looking for tone patterns, usually we look into the nouns and sometimes with the verbs and all the suffixes and prefixes and how it changes and how it alter. So we look also into the tone sandhi and also floating tone. In Pula also there are some which is clearly possible due to the illusion of some clear phoneme. So vowel length, also one of the factors when we work with, especially like Mizo and like Mar that I worked last time, and even Monsang, the one spoken in Manipur. So there are many works sample which we can learn from the works done on the series by Bird and Himes, the edited series on analyzing tone languages. Okay, so now recently, or like 1 year, 2 year back, which is published by like an excellent book published by Mijot about the tone in Yongning Na. I think this is, I find it's very, the tone system looks simple, but it is actually very complex. So he identified 7 phonological rules for this language. So I won't read the rules in detail, but he has shown the underlying tone and the surface tone, how it changes depending on the combination of suffixes, or when there are disyllabic noun, or when the words have more than one syllable, and when it combines with certain suffixes and prefixes. And I find the tone very complex. So I wouldn't call this like a purely phonemic tone, but more on like word level tone analysis. And I think everyone, like all of us, especially young students like us, we should, I think, read this book to understand more about the tone for the related languages, especially in Northeast also. And so what is tone periodic table, or how does it looks like? So when I say tone periodic table, so it may not be very clear in the next slide. So I show a table. This is actually, can you go to the next slide, Monali? So in this example, next slide. So I gave a table, which I have, it is little small, but this is a tone table, which I call basically a tone table. And I have called it tone periodic table to make it very, to make that we take serious, I think, on representing the tone data. So I'll explain about this table now. So what is a tone periodic table? So in the next slide, you will see that a tone periodic table is a precise logical table of all the possible lexical tones. The primary aim of the tone periodic tables is to archive tone data so that the corpus can be used as a point of reference for any other analysis in relation to tone. So a tone periodic table demonstrates that not every tone can carry, and not every tone can appear on every syllable, or like TBU in a tonal language. So in the tone periodic table, we will see that in the next slide, I have grouped the tones into 5 groups. So here, when I say 5 group, which means you will see that there are 6 forms that can have 5 minimal pairs. So when you look into the corpus from all the data you have collected, I found that there are only 6 forms that can give 5 minimal pairs. Similarly, when I say group 4, it gives all the forms that can give 4 minimal pairs. Similarly, the group 3, the group 2, and group 1. So you won't find in group 2 more than like 2 contrastive pairs. Similarly, in group 3 or group 4. So in next slide, so how did I come up with this tone periodic table is the tone data for this tone periodic table is from 10 natural conversations of different genre and word elicited based on phonetic constraint. I think word elicitation based on phonetic constraint helps a lot, because in using the phonetic constraint, I can construct all the possible segmental combination that is possible in the language. And one advantage, and this table is useful for particularly non-restricted tone languages, which means every syllable has toned, and there is no even coda even. So the tone is very rich, like in Pula that I work. So the phonetic constraint helps a lot in building this. So for example, once we get the data from different genre, I look into using the phonetic constraints. So for example, the form pu. So in high, we have the pu form can give us 5 contrastive pairs. Similarly, with s and also with q and ho. So here, one thing we can observe is also there are 2 types minimal pairs based on same segment. So in the minimal pairs of same category and segment, when I say same category, mean like all are verbs. For example, q is different, which behave like a verb in Pula. Height also behave like a verb, and q high also verb, and q low means all, it's also a verb. So similarly, home. So these are the noun class which shows contrastive pairs. So similarly, if we look into the noun syllable structure and try to find out how many possible noun possible structures are there, then we can see there are 16 tone patterns for disyllabic words. So these are the 16 patterns. I won't go into detail. So these are the patterns that we could get in the next slide. Please go to the next slide. Okay, so next. Yeah, so here we can see that tone patterns in disyllabic. These are all possible structures that we can get in Pula. So these are the possible patterns in disyllabic. So from these 16 possible tone patterns, high rising, the combination of disyllable high rising or rising and low are not found to be attested in disyllabic nouns of Pula. So similarly in verb, we can also see in the same pattern, and we can see, please go to the next here. Here. So here we can also see that in verbs with the other particles like perfect, aspect marker, or future marker. So the tone doesn't change. There is no alternation. It still retains the original tones that they have. Okay, in the next slide, we can also see the next slide. We can also see the noun particles or whatever. Please go back one more slide. So all the particles or suffixes that can be added with a noun, we can see that there is no alternation when we combine with certain nouns of different consonant or vowel. It still retains the same in Pula. I think this is one of the factors that really that give me a light to work on the tone table. Okay, next. So database is available. I have given to Dr. Monali. She can share at the end. Okay. we can go to the next slide. That is merits, the advantage having tone periodic table. So the tone periodic table is a useful technique to logically document the tone corpus of a non-restricted tone language. Because when we say this tone periodic table help us to see a more like whole picture, is when we say a language has 5 tones, then we tend to only focus that the language has 5 tones and only look at the data that project only 5 tones. But we usually ignore, I feel like those data that only that only project or realize at the moment of having 3 tones or 4 tones, though maximally there are 5. It is possible that a language may have only one minimal pairs that shows 5 tones, but the rest there are only 2 tones or 3 tones in like maximally. So this provide a holistic information about a tonal language. So so in Pula we have group 5, group 4, but group 5 is actually 6 forms only projects minimal pairs. But the group 5 actually that is the one that shows the highest. Group 4 shows the highest data actually. So equal importance is given to both the occurring tone means and also non-occurring tone syllable of the data. So the table shows that not every tone can appear on every syllable. So this could be a useful tool for both researchers and language learners. So the corpus of the tone periodic table can be considered as a reference point for any other linguistic analysis in relation to the tone. So language community members and linguists can update the tone periodic table by providing evidence in forms of recorded data. And the method of representing the data in the corpus of the tone periodic table will be a very useful source for other related fields like speech technology. So when we try to come up with work with the speech technology, so looking to tone data, if we don't have a corpus like this or table, it will be very hard for the computational linguist to understand and label and to manipulate and try to come up with some project. So if we have a data like that and with the tone table, I'm sure it will be much more easier. So once a precise and logical tone table has been created, so we can even come up with a digital app for learning the tone of the language, and we can develop an app also. So so this Pula tone table is going to be very useful for Pula learners. So the summary is that, so restricted versus non-restricted. So I think the non-restricted tone, which is similar to Pula or maybe the Angami Puchuri language in particular, I think we should definitely come up with a tone corpus data like this and come up with a tone table. So in most of the works, or when we read an article or a book on toned, what I often see is there are only limited data given, and we tend to just assume that the language has 5 tones. Okay, then probably there are like so many five tones are realized or understood. So and it is always given important, as I mentioned earlier, that to the maximal tone, mean the highest minimal pairs, but not the other data that only shows like maybe only 2 tones or 3 tones. So tone periodic tables, as I mentioned earlier, demonstrate that not every tone can appear on every syllable in a tonal language. So tone periodic tables provides a more holistic information about a tone language. So from this, I thought that a non-restricted tone must come up with a tone table. So this is the tone periodic table. And thank you. And Miss Monali, Dr. Monali can share us the data if. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Naina, for the presentation. Now, as Monali shares the database, we have 3 minutes for questions, if any. So if there are any questions, please raise them.
Okay, before others come, just quick question. So in your table, Not this table. This table is very small, I can see. So in the previous table where you have given what you call this, like for high on one table, there's minimal pair. Or the minimal pair for high, for rising, for mid, for low, for extra low. So what happens if, how do we create a table if a language does not have minimal pairs? So in some languages, it's extremely difficult to get peers or peers. So in case a language doesn't have peers, but still has a tone, so how would this table work for those languages?
No, I think this tone table is best for those having minimal like phonemic tone, like Pula or like the other Angami Puchuri languages, which we can have like ample of like minimal pairs for tones. And also I think for the restricted tone like the Kukiching, it's also they say like the African tone system, which has so many underline and surface realization. I think we have to go with to find out the patterns, like what I think the book by Alexis Mochat, I think that kind of tone rules we have to come up. But also if we can come up with a table that can help us to really see the whole pictures, like how much is there and how much is not there. So when we say that the L tone, when it is attached with the high H tone, then it become mid. So how many data can have that kind of, for example, I think we can look into that aspect. So when we say the high tone in like language A changes to low tone when it is combined with the rising tone, then we don't know how many data have that kind of patterns. So we tend to believe, I think that is like, it is always regular in the language. But I have not closely looked into especially the restricted tone system, which is called. But I think this table is best suited for the phonemic tone languages, which can have like minimal pairs easily.
Even if a language does not have minimal pairs, if we can have a data in the form of a table of all the tones, so definitely there's such a table where you have lots of data on the types of tone, on every word or syllable, that would greatly help, as you said. Yeah, this is one.
Yes. I just call it tone periodic table. It may sound for some it may sound odd, but I think the main central point is we should come up with a corpus that can represent in a table precisely, like showing the whole how much data we have. I think that will help us to understand more, and I think we can describe and compare and analyze better, I think. Yeah, Sir Priyanku.
Yeah, Priyanku.
Yeah, I have, I mean, like, I understand from where you're coming from, I mean, like, and where you're trying to go to. But again, like, I see that, like, in your system, there is no way of indicating which tones are more frequent, which are less frequent, etc. Right?
No, I think the tone table shows that.
Oh, but I did not get where the frequency would be shown. So I missed that point maybe somewhere.
So when we say group 3, then
right.
In group 3, then we show how many are possible with these 3. So there are subgroup into group 3 could be in 3, like where rising is missing, where low is missing, where like the low tone is missing, kind of. So in the corpus, actually everything should be there.
But isn't it also true for all the consonant, all the segmental phonemes and also tones? I mean, like, we know that all of them, the segmental phonemes can also not be in all positions or do not occur with the same kind of frequency, right? Why would you give such a, like, such a kind of concentrated interest on tones?
No, I think when we analyze the phonology of a language, I think we need to know the phonetic constraints which tells us exactly which sound cannot be there and which cannot combine, depending on this, like focusing on the syllable structure. So then we know that so for example, in Pula, we don't have like key or some certain syllable like the which ka cannot combine with this sound or something.
Okay, so I think like another point that it draws is that basically we need a huge corpus, and like as we us have been saying in this conference itself, that we need to look into like more let's say spontaneous speech or like people narrating stories, etc. I'll stop there.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Tahini, I have one observation. Okay, it's very interesting presentation. My question is, do those languages has this grammatical tone? Why I'm asking is most of this tonal language has possible to have a grammatical tone. So did you check with this grammatical tone?
So when you say grammatical tone, exactly like what do you mean? Like,
I mean the
like the agreement, or you mean the agreement, or
the past can be present, there can be future, or adjective can become verb, or this. Does that these grammatical tones play a role in those languages, in this Puchuri or Pola?
So there are some nouns. When we change the tone, it can change to a verb, but there are only 3 or 4 examples like that. But we don't have agreement here.
No, I'm not actually about agreement to a grammatical tone, but with the syntactic level, like I see a bird, or I saw a bird, and if the change changed with this with the pitch, the tones. I mean,
no, we don't have that. I showed in the verb paradigm, or the suffixes that can come after the verb, the predicate structure. It is clearly like they still retain its tone of those suffixes that can come with the verb. And we don't have like past tense, but we have perfective, and we have future, and which still retains their own tone.
Okay, but sometimes this adjective become verb, or verb become noun. I think that also, I think, possible in the language.
Yeah, could be. So for Pula, if we used to talk, we have a suffix that can convert into a noun modifier to any verb.
Okay, thank you.
I think we're running out of time. I think Alec has a quick comment to make. If it's
Yeah, thanks, Sahini, for your presentation. Just wanted to comment that when Stephen Maury and I contributed papers to Larry Hyman and Stephen Bird's special volume on analysing tone, our papers were reviewed by Africanists, and they attacked us for not separating our words into lexical classes before we tried to analyse tone. And it just shows that the African approach and the African languages are very different, because generally in Asia, lexical tone doesn't give a damn for what word class it happens to be. So for Asian languages, it seems that you don't need to worry about this, but certainly in African languages you do, because quite often African languages use tone for grammatical rather than lexical purposes. So I just wanted to share that we need to be quite careful when we're reading the literature, that we're not assuming that what applies to African languages applies to Asian languages.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
There are some comments in the chat box.
Yeah, since we're out of time, I'll ask Sahina to please read the comments, and I think there's a question in the chat box. You can, I think, answer in the chat box since we're running out of time. So thank you, Sahina, for the presentation. Then, is there any news from Chaksa?
He said he will, because the network is almost cut down from his area. So once it comes, then he will try to join.
All right. So I think we'll move to the next paper, and the next is, I think, Dipasha Madgiri. The paper is Typology of Voicing Assimilation, Onset, Controlling, and Missing. So Bipasha, are you here? I think you're on mute.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, yeah. Go ahead.
Hello, Dr. Temsu, and very good morning to everyone present here. Can you see the screen? I have started sharing this.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, this paper is based on very preliminary observation made on missing, and also I have taken account of secondary sources. But in this paper, I'm going to discuss a very specific topic on voicing assimilation, which happens to be prevalent in this language. So on assimilation, there are certain theoretical assumptions. There are conditions which govern assimilation as a phonological process. And there are also language-specific rules or parameters. So which site of spreading a language will select for assimilation, and which what are the sounds or segments which can target the assimilation or trigger. Then there are locality conditions and some other phenomena like directionality and domain of spreading. There are certain generalizations also concerning the type of assimilation, including voicing, which is the core of this paper. Assimilation is very common, but always, not always, but sometimes in case of total assimilation, we find geminate integrity and alternability. Then there are deletion rules which come into the picture. There are feature combinations which may get involved, and there are which value will be propagated. That is also interesting to look into. And finally, there is one very interesting observation by Kipersky, that assimilation does not happen if the resultant sound is non-distinct in the language. That means allophones cannot be trigger or target of assimilation. But of course, there are controversies regarding this initial observation, and that was very long back, almost 36 years back. And there are some other cross-linguistic generalizations concerning assimilation as a process, that elements that trigger or block rules are systematically related to the target. Somehow they're related. And there are also conclusions about the natural classes, which may be the targets or which may be triggers. So in case of assimilation, we find two different parameters, interacting type parameters actually. One value is devoicing, the other is spreading. So sometimes what happens is in positionally neutralizing, positionally weak positions like coda within a syllable, that position happens to be devoiced. So obstruents can be trigger or target in devoicing, and in case of spreading, targets can be always obstruents, but spreading is mostly from voiced obstruents or sonorants, which are already naturally voiced, or some other consonants can also play a role in that. My paper is divided into two halves. One is the typological features of voicing assimilation, and then we look into the patterns of voicing assimilation in missing. Then I give a theoretical assumption based on OT framework. In this part, the first part, typology, I give a brief about 4 different major typological observations made by Anderson, then Mascaro. These are available in the PPT. I have already shared with the organizers. If anybody wants to look into, then they can get a copy of this. Then Yochu has also presented one very interesting typological overview, and she devised actually 7 of them. So language specifically, sometimes coda gets delinked and then voice spreads, like in Dutch and Catalan, and the German and Thai has some other parameters, Russian, Serbo-Croatian, then Santi. So these are certain languages, examples of languages which show different kinds of typological features regarding voicing assimilation. Then Lombardi, which is a quite recent in comparison to the previous ones, gives another overview with 5 distinctions within voicing assimilation typology. So now we come to the second part of the paper, assimilation in voicing, in missing. It's a Tani language spoken in both Assam and Arunachal Pradesh. 5 districts, majorly 5 districts in Assam and 2 in Arunachal Pradesh. And they have some relatives, most of the, Aka and Adi, Apatani, Bokar, Nisi, these are somehow related. Mark Post has categorically given a Proto-Tani overview based on Soon's observations, 1993. My observation is on the basis of two data collection periods. One, of course, I went to 2 villages in Majuli, where the Samguria variety of missing is spoken. And then I verified the data in 2017 May with 2 informants. And missing has some dialects, but of course, in this paper, the topic that I'm going to discuss, voicing assimilation, does not have many dialectal variations. So I give away that part right now, whether there is any dialectal variation concerning this particular phenomenon, and then go ahead. So these are some distributional overview where the missing language, the varieties of missing language is spoken. This is the consonant inventory based on Tide 1987 and Pegu's dissertation. And these are the vowels. Interestingly, missing has phonemic length distinction, which was not present in Proto-Tani. I read Post's analysis on Proto-Tani, and I found no other language like missing has a systematic length distinction in other Tani languages. Then I come to the core of the paper now. Voicing assimilation. You see, adjacent obstruents agree in terms of voicing, and voiced obstruents become voiceless. And where does this happen? Interestingly, missing is has the complex morphological structure, and it also allows serial verb construction, etc. I'm not going deep into detail of that, but I'm concerning more into the phonological part of this. So in this kind of a complex structure, you see the per here, which is in the onset position of the second syllable within a structure, triggers that this bar has to be has to agree in terms of voicing. So what is the resultant structure here is the geminate ippan. So always you see in missing, hello?
Yeah, we can hear you. Yeah.
My screen is blinking. Can you see the screen?
Yes, yes.
Oh, okay.
We can see it, but it's not full screen.
Monali, can you present from your side?
Okay. Are you having a problem with the screen?
Yeah, my screen is blinking, so I'm not being able to navigate.
Okay. You have sent me the PDF file, no?
Yes, I did in WhatsApp and Gmail both, so you can have a look.
Okay, then I will share it for you.
Yeah, please. I'm on slide number 14 right now. Please let me know when you are able to share the screen. So I was actually saying that in missing, the agreement of voice fissure is between two adjacent segments, but they need to be heterosyllabic. Need to be in the sense that, of course, missing allows geminates of any obstruent. Like purple is also an underlying geminate in the language. There are data. If you want, then I can supply to you later. But in this case, purple is a surface realization of purple, agreeing in terms of the voicing feature. Monali, are you sharing the screen?
Yes. I think sharing. Can everyone see it?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, yeah. In the next slide, also number 15, I give some supplementary data, of course, related to the same thing, voicing assimilation. So you can see that both or the etc. all in terms of voicing, they agree. So basically, what is happening is twofold cases actually in missing, that the coda, voiced coda is devoiced first, and then probably it is devoiced under the influence of the onset of the next syllable. So in slide 17, Monali, if you can go to 17. So I give two different diagrammatic representations. In A, you can see devoicing as delinking. So the coda is now delinked from the voicing specification. Voicing is marked for obstruents, and in the the second diagram, you have assimilation as spreading. So voice, the voicelessness is spread from the consonant that is in the onset position in the second syllable, propagates to the coda, which is in the preceding syllable. So coda devoicing actually feeds voicing assimilation, and that is my observation. Maybe there are some comments coming from the audience, which may help me to enhance the analysis. In the next slide, number 18, I give a preliminary observation that missing exhibits the type 1 assimilation pattern, where the coda, as in tube or tad or dub, these are monosyllabic roots, are devoiced, followed by regressive assimilation. It's regressive because the propagating feature goes back to the coda of the preceding syllable. In missing, coda devoicing is independent of voicing assimilation. So a voiced coda gets devoiced regardless of whether or not there is an assimilation. For example, kopak has also alternating word like kopak. These are two surface realizations. But yes, I need to work more on this because devoicing is a particular phenomenon which is seen in voicing assimilation languages. So we need to figure out the distinction between devoicing, coda devoicing, and voicing assimilation. But this is a preliminary study, as I said. So maybe there are gaps which needs to be filled in the analysis part. Then in slide number 19, missing exhibits assimilation which operates across syllable. As I said, it's heterosyllabic and also heteromorphemic, because these are complex morphological structures. And I have not found any tautosyllabic voicing assimilation. So within a single syllable or within a single morpheme, I have not, at least till now, come across any voicing assimilation. This may be partially because missing has a very simple syllable structure. So of course, it does not allow complex onset or complex coda. So that is not possible to get tautosyllabic voicing assimilation, but tautomorphemic may be there. So I need to find more data on that. But it leads to the pattern of missing voicing assimilation leads to phrasal voicing assimilation. This is very interesting. Across phrases also it may happen. So these are some parameters, conclusion on missing assimilation on the basis of the parametric variation that is on slide number 20. The site is laryngeal node, the coda. Target is always voice obstruent in the coda position, and trigger is always a voiceless obstruent, never a sonorant. So ra, la, or wa. Wa is not there, but ya is there. So these cannot propagate the voiced feature towards the the coda, the preceding coda. Locality is skeletal adjacency, and directionality is always regressive, always. Locality, I need to find more data on that. As I said, I have to find whether it can be tautomorphemic or not. But directionality, as I have come across the data, it's always regressive. Domain of spreading is across syllable boundary as far as my data is concerned so far. And unmarked voicelessness of obstruent plays a role, and that is the trigger for the assimilation. Slide number 21.
Bipasa, you have 5 minutes.
Okay, yeah, I'll wind up. And these are certain findings based on the typological overviews as proposed by Anderson, Mascaro, Yochu, and Lombardi. So these are the findings based on their typology. Then I come to the last half of the paper, OT account of missing assimilation. In this part, Munali, I'm on page 22. Sorry, slide 22.
Yes, it's 22.
Yeah. So to account for this onset controlling and voicing assimilation in missing, I have found that certain OT constraints are useful to analyze the data, and some of them are faithfulness, including ident voice and ident onset voice. Then we come to agree voice and linearity. So ident voice states that output segments and their input correspondence must agree in voicing. Ident onset, on the other hand, states that onset segments must agree in, must have the similar mapping of voicing feature. Agreement, on the other hand, ensures that obstruent cluster must agree in terms of voicing. And metathesis is prohibited by the constraint linearity. Then in the next slide, two markedness constraints, very important one to deal with this kind of assimilation patterns. Not lar, or you can also say star lar. No laryngeal feature is, laryngeal means constricted glottis, spread glottis, and voicelessness. So these are prohibited in any segment. Then coda consonant is an extension of that. Coda consonant cannot license place feature. So another faithfulness constraint, that is ident laryngeal, comes into force to deal with this kind of data, which states that consonants should be faithful to underlying laryngeal specification. So whatever laryngeal value, laryngeal feature value was there in the UR should also be retained in the SR. And in slide number 24, I give a very brief OT account of one of the input-output mapping of missing word, that is sick cub, for the for the word closing door. They regard this as one single word, sick cub. So you see, these constraints are interacting with each other, and there are candidates. 4 candidates have been generated, and the 4 candidates violate some or the other constraints. And we know that the basic OT assumption is that constraints are hierarchically organized, but they are violable. So these candidates violate some or the other constraint, and at the end, one of the candidate which is also violating some or the other constraint wins the race. So in this case, missing SIGCAP has, that is the UR, the input, and at the output you see with the thumb notation that is giving a SIGCAP. So the coda is devoiced, and somehow the propagating voicelessness has come from the onset to the coda of the previous syllable. So that is the one which wins the entire competition. And these are in slide 25, we have the composite ranking hierarchy of the interacting constraint, agree, voice, and linearity. I found that these are almost the same hierarchical structure. Then they dominate ident voice, which in turn dominates ident onset voice, which in turn coda condition, then the other two constraints. And then I have the references. Thank you for your participation. Any questions?
Yeah, thank you, Vipasha. Now I open this for discussion. We have around 8 minutes. If you have any questions.
Yeah,
any questions, Vipasha? Yeah, maybe I'll just have one small question. So the voicing assimilation, you've said that the trigger is the obstruence. Do you also find this with nasals? Because again, languages where you find this, you also see this very common with in the environment of nasals. So when you have nasals, what happens to the preceding obstruents? Does it also voice, or you don't see this with the nasals?
It's a very good question. Actually, I found that nasals do assimilate in case of missing consonants, but nasals do not give their voice feature to the obstruents. In case of voicing assimilation, only the obstruents can trigger. Of course, nasals do undergo certain assimilation processes, but I have not found any voicing propagation coming from nasals. But this is a very good question, and I have some data which probably I might present somewhere else, or the next edition of this conference. But voicing, as far as my data is concerned, I have not found voicing getting propagated through from nasals.
Yeah, any other questions? Yeah, if there are no, let me ask one more. You see, in your tabulation of constraints, the role of ident onset voice does not seem to be very clear, because even if you don't have in your table, if you remove ident onset voice, the results don't change. So why is it that you need this particular ident constraint?
Yeah, that's a very good observation, Dr. Tension. Actually, I invoked that constraint to deal with the third candidate, you see, in this sick gap. So I'm assuming that can be also a, we can propose that it can also be a candidate. But why it is not? Because there is a change of voicing in the onset position. Ga has become ga. So probably just to treat that candidate or giving that losing treating it as a losing candidate, I invoke that. But yeah, maybe your observation is correct, and I'll look into this in the next while enhancing this paper. Thank you for this very interesting observation.
Yeah, thank you. Are there any questions? If there are no questions, we'll move to the next paper. Anyone? Okay, so I think there are no questions. So thank you, Bipasha. We move to the next paper, which is Aditya Prakash Das from Assam University. His topic is syllabic structure of Sikkimese Bhutia. Is he here?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. So you have 20 minutes plus 10 minutes of discussion. I will intervene at the end of 15 minutes.
So is my screen visible, sir?
Yes, it's visible. Go ahead.
Okay. So my name is Aditya Prakash Das, and I'm from Assam University. So today my topic of discussion is syllabic structure of Sikkimese Bhutia. So I'm going to introduce the language a little bit. So I took the liberty of explaining it a little bit elaborately. So the Bhutia tribes, the Bhutia tribes are the original inhabitant of Tibet, and they came to India, or you can say Sikkim, in the 16th century, which is in the northern part of Sikkim. So from my primary collected data, I have come to the conclusion that they are the most inhabited, the oldest inhabitants, or you can call the migrants from Tibet, and they migrated to Sikkim in the 16th century. They are known as Lachenpas and Lachungpas because this place, Lachen and Lachung, is situated in the northern part of Sikkim. The Bhutias are also known by their place of habitation and from their occupation. They are also known as Drukpas from Drukul of Bhutan, which is situated in Ha, and the Chumbi Pass from Chumbi Valley, which is presently now in the northern part of Tibet, eastern part of Tibet. Next, they are from Dhokta Pass from Dhokta, that is also a place from Tibet in the southern part. The Tromo Pass or Dumu Pass from Dumu, that is also from the Tibet place. The Lachung Pass from the Lachung Valley. These are called Lachung Pass are called Lachung Pass because they, as I have mentioned, they have been given their name from their place of habitation. So they are from the Lachung valleys, and they migrated from Ha, that is from a place from Bhutan. The Lachen Pass from Lachen Valley Same, they have migrated from Ha Valley because the people of Sikkim, the people of Bhutia tribe, they are always busy in trading because as they are from the Tibet, so they have been trading and migrating from Tibet and from Bhutan also from the very early period of time. And from that, we can see the third point that the population of Bhutias in 2001 census was 74,164. So from that, they have increased to 2,29,954 according to the 2011 census. So the recently updated 2021 census is still not here, so I'm sorry. So I couldn't upload that. The next one. According to the Namgyal and Dolma, the Bhutias are said to have descended from the 8 clans. So these 8 clans have been called Beth Sangyat, the ancestor. They are the ancestors of Khe Vumsa. So about Khe Vumsa, he is the religious leader, or you can say the religious Raja from Sikkim, who has been the great ancestor from great ancestor of Sikkim, who came to Sikkim in the 16th century. As I have mentioned, that from Tibet there are many migrants. While others say that Khe Vumsa had 3 sons. So about this topic, I like to explain a little bit. Khe Vumsa didn't have a son or didn't have descendants for a very long period of time. So he visited the southern part of Sikkim, where he met a very old lama, you can say, or a saint, whose name is Thekong Thek. He was the chieftain of the Lepchas. So he visited there and he asked about his blessings. So after getting his blessings, he got the 3 sons. So from that point of view, they have been the Lepchas and the Bhutias are the blood incarnated brothers and sisters from that period of time. So according to the later tradition, it is said to be that the Bepsan Gyal, are the other tribes who were not given the major social status. So from the first point here, it is given the Bepsan Gyal. These are the original ancestors of Khe Vumsa, and the Bepsan Gyal, they are you can say the not direct ancestors of Khe Vumsa. So they were not given that much of social status at that time. So the third point of these two, the 4 tribes of regiment of Tongdas are named Sandarpas, Sechudar, Guru Tashi, and Nimya Gyalpo. Then there is this Lisheng Pass. These are also the descendants of Khe Vumsa, then who got separated from their tribes. So not they are actually not they are got separated from their tribes. They got they migrated to Bhutan, the place I have mentioned, Ha in Bhutan. They have migrated there because as I have mentioned earlier, that they are always busy in trading. They kept themselves busy in trading. So these are the clans who got separated. The Bepsan Gyal clans. They are the Bonpas.
Yeah, Aditya, I think you can move to your analysis because you have just 10 minutes left.
Okay. So again, to the lifestyle, they are. Let me mention it a little bit. So they are the people of the older generation. They have been trying to preserve the language. So now the new generations, they have been being exposed to the code mixing and code switching because they always use the language in their family, and they always and only in their house they use Bhutia language, but outside the house they use Nepali and Hindi. So here is my topic of the syllable. So all you know that the syllable is a unit of pronunciation that is composed of a syllable, nucleus, which is a vowel, and which is obligatory with optional initial and final margins. Okay, so the initial margin are consonants, they are called the onset, and the marginal consonants, they are called the coda. The nucleus in a syllable is a peak, and a syllable that ends in a vowel is the open syllable, and the syllable that ends with consonants is the closed syllable. You all know that. So in Bhutia, we have words with one or more syllables. The maximum numbers of syllables from my primary data I have found I have only 4 syllables, which are mentioned here. So I have got 4 syllables, that is monosyllable, here, disyllable, trisyllable, and tetrasyllable. So in monosyllable, the open the Bhutia language they follow the mostly the CV patterns, and here is the open syllable, that is kya, which means blood, do, which means face, cha, which is called muscle. Then I have the closed syllable, which is na, nose, so, means teeth. Moving on to disyllabic word. So here the disyllabic words also follow the CV pattern. So the second syllable is open, which is Phajo, which is ancestors, Mikyo, bachelor, and the second syllable, which is closed here, Ledum, which means limb, Dumpo, means pillar. So again to the trisyllabic word. Trisyllabic word follows the CV and CCV pattern. Here the third syllable is open. The examples are here. Nekusa, which means wash basin. Gegashi, which means window. Gekago, the third syllable here is closed because of the consonants. The example is Gegago, which means ventilator. Newthup chez, which is utensils. Moving on to tetrasyllabic, the 4-syllable word. Here, the most pattern is followed as a CVC pattern. The 4th syllable is open here. That is Khang Mig Chongbo, which means wardrobe. Juk Thu Luk Ti, which means television. Duk She Chuk Je, which means study chair, and Duk She Chang Te, which means study table. So here's the conclusion. So about the conclusion, they are the Bhutias. You can see that the Bhutias are the original habit of Tibet. At that time, Sikkim was called Demojong. And Guru Padma Sambhava played the main role for the blessing to profess that Sikkim would be a very sacred place. So here the data were collected primarily. The language has both open and closed syllable. The language has 4-syllabic word, as it is mentioned, the monosyllabic, disyllabic, trisyllabic, and tetrasyllabic. So here the CV pattern is more common in Bhutia, and the CCV pattern is present, but in a very less number. So here are the references that I have taken the liberty to take from some books from Linguistic Survey of India by G. Grierson, History, Culture and Customs of Sikkim by J.R. Subba, and Gazetteer of Sikkim by H.S. Risley. So here I end my topic. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Aditya. So now I open this for discussion. If there are any questions.
And so this Priyanku, can I ask a question?
Yeah, I think Priyanku has his hand raised.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, so Aditya, I was wondering how you have collected your data, because when you're showing these syllable patterns, right? Where does this data come from? I mean, you have interviewed people, you have recorded people. That is one thing I want to know. And I think Sikkimese Bhutia is known as Denzongke, right?
Yes.
Okay, so there is a Juha. Juha's last name I have trouble pronouncing. Juha has a whole dissertation on that, on the Sikkimese Bhutia or Denzongke, right?
Yes, descriptive grammar.
So yes. So how does your work? What do you have in addition to that, and how does it compare? Your results compare with Juha's results?
Sir, as I have been surveying the language, so it has been the first question was whether I have collected data primarily or secondarily. Yes, sir, I have collected my data primarily going to the places in the northern part of Sikkim, which is Lachung and Lachen. So according to so that this is a very interesting question you have asked, sir. The book that is introduced by Juha sir, which is the grammar descriptive grammar of Sikkimese Bhutia. So he has updated the book a while ago, but my concern is about the situations are, as I have mentioned in my topic, that the people, the old generation people are much more keen to preserve their language. And the new generations are always code mixing and code switching. They have adapted some other languages. So my survey is about whether they have code switched their language with in another language, or they have been mixing their language with another language.
Yeah, no, my question is about the syllable structure. I want to ask you whether you have anything in addition to what Juha has said, or do your
yes, sir,
results?
I followed him, yes, sir. I have followed him. So after following him, I have been going on with my research.
Yeah. So does it? Do your results show close like correspondence with what Juha has said, or
yes, sir. It is.
new?
It is somehow a little bit similar, but a little bit addition is there because I have told you some. They have been adapting other languages also. So I have just filtered it from there.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Priyanko. Do we have any other questions? Any questions from the participants? Yeah, so if there are none, then we'll thank Aditya for his presentation, and we'll move to the last paper, which was actually the first one in this session.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir, for the good opportunity, because I have been trying to. This is the first time that I have been in a virtual conversation. So I thank you for guiding me through this. And I have been in a technical glitch, and I hope that this has been not created a problem in understanding, sir.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Is Chaksang here? I think he's.
Yeah, he's not around. I'm trying to reach his number, but it's not going through. Also, he was there a while ago, but he got disconnected again.
Okay.
Yes, he was there. Even I saw him, and I think just now he.
And his number is not going through.
All right. Yeah. So Chaksang was supposed to present. Was the first presenter. He presented for I think around 5 minutes, and he lost his connection. So we are now. The time is 11:05.
Or we can see Chaksang's PPT, Bijan, and then whatever questions are there, it can be put in the chat box, and we can mail him the questions to respond.
Monani, if I may speak for a minute, so can we ask him to make a video of his presentation and send it to us so we can play later?
Yes, that also can be done. Like he can take a video and we can play in one of the sessions where maybe in the evening tomorrow or today.
Yeah, I just spoken to Chaksang. He updated me that the internet connection in his area is totally got disconnected. So I asked him if you can connect within 4 or 5 minutes, then we can give you some couple of minutes to continue his presentation. In case he didn't join within some 4 or 5 minutes, then we can drop his presentation. So in between, if chairpersons can take some question for the other presentation, for the other paper presenters in between when we are waiting for Chaksang to join us.
Yeah, if there are any questions on the previous 3 papers that we've had in this session, yeah, participants are free to raise those questions.
In that case, let me take the privilege first. My question is to Sahani. I need a clarification on one of his concluding remark that all the I was not able to grasp clearly on the lines. There was a line that it was saying all the syllables are not tone bearing units or something. So I need a clarification on that statement. If Sani can respond, I think he's around.
Can you please repeat?
Yeah, okay. In your concluding remarks or in the summary, you mentioned one statement that all the syllables don't bear tones or something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so I just want some light on that statement.
Okay, what the tone table is saying is all the tones cannot occur in every syllable, which means certain syllable can take maybe 3 tones or the 5 tones or 2 tones or like just 1 tone, like it doesn't have any distinction.
Okay.
I think that's the answer of the question, I think, or did I answer the question?
I was perceiving in another way that you want to mean that all the syllables doesn't carry on the tones. That was my perception.
You can frame it in that way, but what I'm trying to say is all the tones, the 5 tones, like say, cannot occur in every syllable. It can occur on only few syllables. Yeah.
Yes, I got it. Okay. It was in regard to your tone syllable. I think that was not a general statement.
Yes.
So
like that. Yeah. So the 5 those syllable or forms that can carry 5 tones, there are only 6 of them. So like the one which can carry 4 tones, there are like, I think the most available structure or the syllables that we can find in the language. Yeah.
Okay, that is in regard with the periodic tone table you have, this invented for the Pula language specifically.
Yes.
Okay, yes. I got it. Yeah, Priyanku was trying to say something.
No, I think he clarified it in the next line just after I was going to ask.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, any more questions? Yeah, I think what we can do is, if possible, Chaksang can do a recording of his, as suggested by Priyanku. He can do a recording and send it to us. And over the next, we all have 3 more days, so maybe we can adjust and have his presentation sometime. So yeah, I think so. I'll thank all the paper presenters for their time for the presentations, and end the session there. And I'll hand it over to either Bijen or Monali if there are any announcements to be made.
Yes, yeah. After this session, we are going to have another session. That is the session number 2 for day 2. That is on the Morphology-II, and it will be start by 12 p.m. So all the paper presenters in that session, if you are in this Zoom room, like Lorina, Krishnaboro, Kalaibo, Hisnam Kenny, Lisa Lomdak, it is a request from the organizing committee to be there in the Zoom room before 15 minutes of the scheduled time. So that is the announcement. And yeah, with this announcement, we have come to the end of session 1 of the day 2. So with this note, we close the, before that, I would like to thank the chairperson of the session, Dr. Temsunung Sang, for the smart conduct of the session. There was some technical glitch, and sometimes that goes beyond our hands. So we are helpless in such cases like Jackson case. So we'll try to fit him in one of the session, maybe on the last day if he's ready, or he can arrange for a location where he can get some good internet connection. I think we can give him a chance. So thank you very much, all the paper presenters of the session. We have learned many things from your research papers. So thank you very much. and all the participants who were actively engaged during the discussion. And it was a really fruitful session. So we look forward all you in this session, next session, as well as in all the session of this conference. So thank you very much, and we'll meet again at 12. Thank you.
Thank you.